As a youngster, I fell in love with it. So a beautiful story with a climax that doesn't rise all that high, stops short of meeting the sky. Why? One day, a mountaineer named Núñez slipped and fell into that valley. When he regained consciousness and saw that everyone was blind, an old proverb echoed in his mind. In the country of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. According to their belief, a smooth rock ceiling covered the world above, and this was their religious truth. Now Nuñez had thought he would teach them. Then he fell in love with Medina Sarote. She was the youngest daughter of Jacob. He began to climb the rocks. He thought of the world he had come from, the vast world where people see, where the sky is limitless, where there is the ocean and much more. Bodho aham. I am not life, I am realization, which means realization is more important than life. And the story ends by saying maybe Nuñez was found dead the next morning, but that's fine. But that's fine. We were speaking of existentialism in the last session, and we took up a story by H.G. Wells. Tonight we'll proceed to another story, again by H.G. Wells. But before that, something more on existentialism itself. So existentialism refuses to accept any roles, biases, beliefs, burdens coming from the past. The philosophy, the social and the literary movement today we call as existentialism arose in the shadow of the two world wars. We spoke of Kierkegaard, Nietzsche, Sartre last time. And the existentialists were clearly seeing that man's identities, thoughts, and then actions coming from the past lead to strife, are meaningless, and create servitude, bondages. So this philosophy rebels. It rebels against popular morality. It rebels against social customs and norms. It rebels against gods and kings and nationalism. It does brilliantly when it comes to rebelling against everybody outside of oneself. Lovely philosophy. As a youngster, I fell in love with it. but it stops short. And being Gita students, that's where your curiosity must awaken. It's like coming to the edge of a cliff and then beginning to call the cliff your home. Instead of jumping and taking flight or meeting whatever consequences there might be, one does the arduous task of rejecting, negating everything that the landscape has to offer and comes right till the edge and stops short of the final step. Existentialism rebels against everybody. The qualifier is outside of oneself. So it says all the meanings and responsibilities and identities that are given to you by others, and others includes everything: the place of your birth, the system of your education, the political order of your place, everything. The imperatives of your gender, that too is negated by the existentialists. So none of that is to be taken seriously, and it says the burden of living authentically is squarely upon the individual. It says all the meanings that are supplied to you by external sources have to be rejected, and you must find your own meaning. So a beautiful story with a climax that doesn't rise all that high, stops short of meeting the sky. Why? Because this individuality, this self, is not questioned. One is told, be the master of your own life, figure out what you must do, and that is authenticity. But who am I? That question is never ventured into. Instead, the model proposed remains dualistic. There is the world and there is the self. Individualists, existentialists do not frequently use the word self. They would simply say the individual. So there is the world and there is the individual. And the individual is thrown into an absurd, meaningless, dominating and violent world, and the individual must reject all that. That's fine. But then the individual itself is being taken as something real, as happens in duality, right? There are two realities. The external reality is the world, including time, space, the whole force of history. And then there is the reality at this end. The reality at this end is not quite questioned. And a perpetual strife is seen between these two ends. Having been randomly and unwillingly thrown into this absurd and meaningless universe, the individual is supposed to experience a constant existential angst. So anxiety is taken as actually something beautiful. Not just beautiful, it is taken as something close to final. If you are living truly, then you would be experiencing constant inner distress. You would be feeling anxious. Angst would be a constant companion, right? That there can be something called freedom from the self that experiences anxiety is not envisioned. The self remains, and only two states of this self are seen as possible. One, surrendered to and subjugated by the world, which is the normal state, and then there is the elevated state, the state of the thinker, philosopher, and that state is of constant tension with the world, because I am rejecting this world, and if I reject this world, there would be tension. This tension is celebrated in existentialist literature and drama and movies as a touchstone of honesty, authenticity. You would find the hero smoking continuously, for example. And you do not say he's a fool because he cannot go beyond the inner stress. You do not say that. You say, oh, he's an honest man. That's why he's facing inner trouble. And to some extent, that is true. Because this person is definitely relatively more honest than the one who is well adjusted and well settled in his dishonesty. So this person, troubled, even neurotic, experiencing constant inner turbulence, is definitely relatively more true, honest and authentic. But the existentialists took that as almost final, that this is the upper limit of your inner spectrum. You can't rise really any higher than this. That there can be liberation not only from the society but also from the self was never seen at all. The model remained dualistic, though radically honest, beautiful, inspiring, rebellious, artistic. Very few philosophical streams have inspired as much artistic output, creative output, liberal output as the existentialists. Because their game was about the human being and his suffering. So they had to come to human life. They had to start with what the common man experiences. And they found it easier to express it via stories and songs and novels and plays and movies than long essays and doctrines and voluminous books. They said, no, we would rather write a play and perform it, and that would display our position better than a purely academic work. Do you get this? So they have done well. They have done well in challenging the past, the present as it appears to these eyes, and they challenged even God. Fine. They challenged even the notions that we carry about the human body and the gender roles. And all that is so nice. But one place where they stop is the self. They do not question the self. Where does the self come from? See, in duality, there are not just two ends. The two ends are taken as independent of each other. Right? And the two ends are taken as independently existing realities, free of each other. And that's a philosophical mistake, an error the existentialists are getting into when they say, I will find out meaning and purpose in life by rejecting whatever the society has to throw at me. They do not see that this I, this self, who is out to find meaning and purpose, might itself be a social construct. And if it is a social construct, then it is not free of the other pole, or is it? In a strictly dualistic framework, the two poles have to be independent of each other. But is the self independent of the society? No. Yes, outwardly the self can drop the society by saying, I'll not wear the clothes the commoners do. I'll not follow the rules the commoners do. I'll not carry the beliefs the commoners do. But that can still be a largely cosmetic rebellion. In spite of externally dropping everything that is external, the dropper, the chooser, can still retain a lot of what is actually external. That's where Advaitic non-duality excels. Is there a self really free of time and society? That's the question there. And the more you ask this question, the more you find that the honest answer is no. By choosing, the chooser is extending all that he is rejecting. Because the process of choice involves validation of the chooser. And if in choice something is being rejected, which automatically will happen because that's what choice implies, you have to reject something and accept something. That which you are rejecting is apparently social, but the one who is rejecting is also a social construct. So even in rejection, there is affirmation. Even in rejecting whatever you do, you are still affirming the self, right? I exist as the chooser. Advaita, non-duality. No, sir, you don't exist at all. At all. Your confidence is misplaced. As long as you exist, it is the society, the collective past, the collective forces, the evolutionary process, the aggregate, the blind accumulative flow talking through your agency. You are misinterpreting the whole situation because you are not looking inwardly. Your confidence is false. You are saying you are rejecting the external, Sir, the external is speaking through the rejecter. Getting this? And that's why the tension will remain. This tension that you seem to, if not celebrate, then at least endorse, is actually the result of a philosophical error. And existentialists did not just experience the normal kind of tension. Angst is a more severe word. They went to the extent of questioning whether there is any point living at all, to be or not to be. People like Camus were seeing the whole futility of living. What's the point if one cannot break the circuit? What's the point if one is destined to live within a loop? Why must Sisyphus decide to wake up the next morning? What's the point? And this dilemma is a natural outcome of that philosophical error. The tension exists because the snake is trying to eat its own tail. The tension exists because the man is trying to run away from his own shadow. And when he cannot run away from the shadow, he is trying to sit in his own shade. And when it doesn't feel cool, he is cursing and abusing the shadow. He is thinking of the two as independent, the man and the shadow, the snake's mouth and his tail, when the two are not independent at all. Do you get this? So, we are entering a very evocative story by H.G. Wells. It's a fairly short story, but it has been condensed further for the benefit of those who did not go through the reading. I'll read it out first for you. It was around 23 years back when I first used it as teaching material. And it has always fascinated me with its simplicity and deep symbolism, right? I've used this story as basis for discussion even with school kids, and they got it. They resonated. Class 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. And I have used this story even with those pursuing executive MBA programs, 25, 30, 35-year-olds. Worked with them as well. I'll read it out first. This is a condensed version. You must go through the whole story. Beyond the snowy peaks of the Andes lay a hidden valley lost to the world for centuries. There lived a community that had been blind for 15 generations. There is a valley, and there live people who have been not just freshly blind, they have been traditionally blind since 15 generations. They knew nothing of light, nothing of the sky, nothing of stars. Their world was one of touch and sound, and they believed it complete. One day, a mountaineer named Núñez slipped and fell into that valley. When he regained consciousness and saw that everyone was blind, an old proverb echoed in his mind: "In the country of the blind, the one-eyed man is king." He was certain his sight would grant him dominion over these unfortunate people. But the opposite happened. When Núñez spoke of seeing, they thought him mad. Their language had no such word. When he described the sky and the stars, they said he spoke nonsense. According to their belief, a smooth rock ceiling covered the world above, and this was their religious truth. His sight was to them a deformity, a symptom of mental illness. Now, Núñez had thought he would teach them. Instead, they tried to correct him. He was told his understanding was incomplete, his words meaningless, and that he must learn to live as they did. First, he rebelled. He tried to escape, but there was no way out of the valley. Hunger and cold broke him. Eventually, he returned defeated. "I was mad," he said. "Now I'm wiser." They asked, "Do you still think you can see?" "No," Nuñez lied. "That word means nothing." They gave him the hardest labor, considered him an idiot and inferior. But slowly he made a place for himself among them. Then he fell in love with Medina Sarote. She was the youngest daughter of Jacob. Now, Jacob is an influential and respectable man in the valley. By the standards of the blind, she was not beautiful. Her eyelids were not sunken like theirs. Her eyes looked as if they might open at any moment. But to Núñez, she was the most beautiful thing in creation. He began telling her about seeing, and she listened as though it were a sweet fantasy. When Núñez proposed marriage, the community refused. Marriage to a madman? That would corrupt the race. But Medina wept, and Jacob's heart softened. Then the village's great physician offered a solution. He said, "I have examined Núñez. His problem is clear. Those strange spherical organs on his face, which he calls eyes, are diseased. They are distended. They have lids that move constantly, and this constant movement keeps his brain in perpetual agitation. The cure is simple: remove these organs." So somebody asked, "And then he'll be well?" Oh, the doctor said, "He will be a perfectly normal citizen." Jacob exclaimed with joy, "Thank heaven for science." Now Medina persuaded Núñez. She too wanted him to be cured. She said, "Your fantasies are beautiful, but I wish you would not speak so." Núñez consented. The final week before the operation, he did not sleep. While others slumbered, he watched the sky, the snowy mountain peaks, the colors of sunrise and sunset. The last morning came. He met Medina. He looked upon her face one final time. He had planned to go to the meadow where white narcissus bloomed and wait there for his sacrifice. But as he lifted his eyes and saw the mountains before him, bathed in golden light, something broke. It seemed to him that before this splendor, this valley, these colors, everything was nothing but a pit, a dark pit. He ran away. He did not turn back. He crossed the wall. He began to climb the rocks. He thought of the world he had come from. The vast world where people see, where the sky is limitless, where there is the ocean, and much more. He just kept climbing the rocks. At sunset, he was very high. His clothes were torn, his body bloodied and bruised. Below, the valley was dim and distant like a pit, but above, the mountain peaks burned with golden fire. He lay down on a rock. There was a smile on his face. He was content merely to have escaped from that valley where he had thought to be king, but had become a slave. Night came, the cold stars emerged, and still he lay there. The story ends here. We do not know if Núñez survived. Perhaps he died that cold night. Perhaps he found a way. But one thing is certain. He chose to die with his eyes rather than live without them. So that's the story. So one instance from one of the sessions where I use these stories remains unforgettable to me. These are class 11th or 12th students. And that particular scene is not mentioned in the condensed version, but in the full version it runs like this. So Nuñez has slipped into the valley, fallen, and he gets up. And these people who are ostensibly guards or police, they come to him and they question him, how come you have intruded into this place? And while talking to them, he discovers that they are blind. So he speaks to them, and then it is decided that he has to be taken to the town square, someplace, authorities, somewhere. And it's still a rocky place where the three of them are standing, the two guards and Núñez, right? So now the picture is the two blind ones are holding Núñez, one by each side, and they are carrying him down the rocky slopes. And the picture is so evocative. And Núñez is thinking, wondering, I am the one with eyes. I am the one with eyes. And he is trying to tell them, wait, watch out. There's a steep one there. But they are dismissing him as an idiot. They are telling him, what the hell, you follow our instructions. And we inhabit this place since centuries, generations. We know, you don't. And Núñez just can't get what's going on. Two blind ones are not even helping him, dictating him through the path. So I asked the kids, what comes to your mind when you read this para? The two guards taking Núñez through the path. And the answer was an echo. Unanimous consent. And it came before I could finish the question. You know what the answer was? Obviously you do. What comes to your mind when you find two blind people ordering Núñez through the walk? What did the kids say? That was 20 years back. Some of those kids would be Gita participants now. And wondering why their kids are so damn disobedient. What did the kids say?
Parents.
Papa and Mama. Blind, but utterly full of confidence. We know. We know. You follow us. Now the kids too were full of confidence. On one hand, the rebellion is definitely existential. Why should I listen to the body or to history or to society or to relationships or to hierarchy? Why should we listen to all these? That is fine. But then the confidence says, I would rather listen to myself. I would rather listen to myself. The story is remarkable. The story is remarkable because it shows that it does not suffice to listen to oneself. Núñez was about to lose his eyes forever. Not because the others had defeated him, but because he had willingly consented to the surgery. The story does not say that 40 of the blind ones overpowered him and scooped out his eyes. No, the story does not say that. Instead, the story says, Núñez fell in love and agreed to sacrificing his eyes. And it's a beautiful existentialist story that reveals the limits of the philosophy. Yes, it is very important to rebel against others, but it's equally important to rebel against yourself also, which Núñez does. And the story says in the process, if he has to sacrifice his life, that's fine. Do not sacrifice your eyes for anything. Eyes are symbolic. Eyes are a very potent metaphor here, are they not? Eyes are more important than even life. Do you understand this? Vedanta says, Bodho aham. I am not life, I am realization. Which means realization is more important than life. And the story ends by saying, maybe Núñez was found dead the next morning, but that's fine. But that's fine. Dying in service of, in defense of the eyes is far better than living blind in service of your so-called love or emotion. You see, what the brute power of the blind men could not do, the tears of that woman succeeded in doing. And that's what existentialists kind of refuse to see. They would often think of love as internal and domination as external. They would think of domination as something to be rejected. Because somebody else, the other, is exercising power, control, agency. Sartre would say, other is hell. Now, if the other is exercising power, then you have to rebel. And that's so beautiful. These people excelled at that. The Europe of 60s and 70s, France, Paris, the smoke-filled cafes where these people would meet and discuss. And the movement didn't really die out. it branched out. Its essence was absorbed into more current philosophical trends. So they did a great job of rejecting nonsense. But the job remained incomplete in terms of identifying the inner nonsense. The inner nonsense. And it is so fascinating, no? Charming, romantic, chivalrous, heroic, to fight against the outer ones. But please see, this man who had thought of becoming the king of the blind ones was at the verge of losing his eyes to the blind ones. Just think of the inversion. And that was not because of external subjugation. That was because of love. Love. If you read the full story, when it is first disclosed to Núñez that yes, you can be with the girl, provided you become like one of us, provided you get rid of these tumors, these problematic outgrowths on your face called the eyes. You just get rid of these things and you become like one of us, and she can be yours. He first rejected. And upon rejection, he was met with a stream of tears. Her eyes could not see. Nevertheless, they could weep profusely. And often eyes that refuse to see are much better at weeping. Do you see, the tears were not meaningless, not purposeless. The tears were meant to proliferate blindness. She succeeds in convincing Núñez to give up his eyes. And Núñez says, fine, I'm ready. It just so happens that on the day of the operation, the surgery, he wakes up early. And there is that butterfly, there is the sunrise, there is the special hue of the clouds, the trees. As if Mother Prakriti herself is sending a signal. And he says, I get it. And he runs. And the climb is steep. He had surrendered to that climb earlier as well in the story. At first he had tried to run away. When they declared him diseased and stupid and held him captive, he had planned an escape. But the steepness of the climb defeated him then. But this time he says it is steep, doesn't matter. I'll just keep climbing, just keep climbing. And finally he reaches some safe height. And the story ends as he lies there. It contains so many very potent symbols. And so many mirrors. It's like walking into a hall full of mirrors. The people of the valley were actually living quite comfortably. The story goes into that, not in this shortened version. They had learned how to survive as a civilization, even without eyes. For example, all the roads were either parallel or intersected at sharp 90 degree. Which means you don't have to bother for directions. All that eyes could do had been made available by touch. And since eyes had remained unavailable since 15 generations, there was no way anybody was going to miss seeing. Núñez describes it initially. He says, oh, the houses have no windows at all. The houses have no windows at all. And there is nothing that arises all of a sudden. The architecture has customized itself to the architect. So, for example, there would be no sudden wall to crash into, to collide with. So, if you are walking, there would be a gradual ascent, not something like this, not something perpendicular that you walk into and hurt your head against. Getting it? There would be a gradual rise. So at some point you will realize that you are going down the wrong line. Getting it? And they had adapted so beautifully that there was no way they were going to admit there was something wrong with them. In fact, very confidently they declared that there is something wrong with someone who can see. Does that resonate? Can you see? Certain interactions that Nuñez has are very telling. Very loaded with meaning. H.G. Wells has written this one really well. In fact, every single interaction that Nuñez has is very potent with meaning. And the interactions that he has with the girl. At one point, she tells him, "Oh, your words are so beautiful. Oh, when you speak, I'm really charmed. But at the same time, I don't want you to speak like that. Why can't you be normal? When I'm with you, your words capture me. But I know you are an idiot. Because what you're talking of doesn't really exist. It's not practically possible." She doesn't say that to meet you, I will start seeing like you. She says to meet me, you have to stop seeing like me. Do you get this? You see, there's a great difference between the two of us. You claim you see, and I refuse to admit there is anything called seeing. And if the two of us have to meet, there has to be a unity, a common plane we both arrive to. And that common plane would be that you too stop seeing. You too stop seeing. This is not an order. This is not an order. This reads like a prayer to the self, that the self willingly admits, accepts. It is this self that's the final enemy of itself. Do you understand this? Núñez knows everybody is an idiot. Not only are they idiot, they are dishonest people. The surgeon, the guards, the general people in the valley, Medina and her father, he knows all of them are just being foolish. And yet he agrees. He says, fine, I know what you're doing is not right. I know what you're saying is stupid. And yet I agree. And I just don't intellectually agree. Think of the implications of the agreement. The agreement is not just a casual nod. The agreement implies a surgery that removes his eyes. The agreement implies an ontological disorientation, an irreversible distortion. Does it not? And he is acquiescing. Please see, this is how bondage operates in the modern liberal world. Modern, liberal, democratic, rule-bound. This is how bondage operates. Not through crude force, not through sheer compulsion, not through dominion, not through dictate, but through what you call as your thought and your emotion. Not somebody else's gun, but your own emotion. That's what keeps you in bondage. The existentialists were very courageous when it came to rebelling against the gun that the other holds. But when it came to one's own thoughts, they stopped short. Because one can see their problem. Because what is one left with if one questions and then rejects even the self? It is fine and sounds sensible to say the self has rejected the pen. All right. The self has rejected the pen. But it starts sounding not just absurd but scary if you say the self has rejected the self. And the resultant vacuum is unbearable. It is into this vacuum that the existentialists refuse to leap. They said, fine, I am the agency, I must own my life, the responsibility is mine. Wonderful, great things to say. I remember how those plays and stories, they would inspire me. But then there is Nuñez. No, it's my own decision to give up my eyes, my life, my career, my aspirations, and even my truth. How do you correct this thing now? When somebody says, no, it is my own decision to give up my life, freedom, and even my truth. How do you fight this thing now? That's where Advaita saves us. He says you don't need to be saved. You are saved by telling you that nothing within you needs to be saved. Without any fear, drop it all. Not just what you hold, but also the one who holds. Let all be gone, because that which you hold is not really separate from the holder. Duality is false. Do you get this? And we learn a fair bit on how blindness is self-perpetuating and self-preserving. It preserves and it perpetuates. It preserves itself through beliefs and systems. When you read the full story, you will come to the theology, the metaphysics of the blind ones. And their theology was perfectly suited to who they were. Their God had no color. Their God had no color. Because they could not see anything, so they would describe everything in terms of sounds. Angels to them were those that made a particular kind of sound, not that which looks a particular way, not that which has a particular form, and obviously not color. But because they had fossilized it, enshrined it in the form of theology now, religion now, therefore it was blasphemy to question it. So Núñez, for example, once told them, look up at the beautiful blue and the streaks of orange and red in the evening. Look up. So they said, idiot. As one raises his head, what is up there is a concrete canopy of rock. Homogeneous rock. Smooth rock. Smooth without any singularities or specifics, colors or contours, just rock. And Núñez, the story doesn't say that, but let me add. And Núñez asks, how do you know that? And what do they say? That's what our scriptures tell us. And Núñez says, but who wrote those scriptures? And they say, oh, the messenger of God himself wrote those scriptures. And Núñez is, do you see how theology, religion, that entire architecture of belief is customized to preserve and propagate the ego, which basically means the ego's limits. The limits of your seeing, the limits of your intelligence, the limits of your understanding and of your love become the limits of your religion. And then you say, no, these are not my limits. These are limits that religion has ordered. Therefore, we will respect these limits. You must not think of certain things. Now, why can I not think of certain things? Because they are sacred. They must not be thought of. Thought is aggressive. Thought is a violation. No, sir, no. Do you see? How is it not possible that the entire planet is the country of the blind? How is it not possible? Did the blind ones know they were blind? Were not the blind ones operating relatively peacefully? Were they not? Did they not have codes of conduct? Did they not have a legal system? Did they not have a religious system? Were they not farming, building, eating? Even they had signs. You listen to Yaqub exclaim, right? Hail signs. They did have signs. And they were expert surgeons, it seems. Being blind, they had the expertise to remove eyes. This kind of expertise is not easy. But does not the common man in society hold this expertise? Please tell me, reflect on this for a moment. The common man may not know anything, may not do anything, but he is damn good at one thing. Being blind, he will extinguish light wherever it is. Being blind, he will shoot in your eyes. Whenever you stare into his internal darkness, that's one thing you must avoid in front of a blind person. Do not, and I'm not talking of the blindness of these physical organs. You understand that, right? One thing you must not attempt in front of a blind person is seeing. He might be blind, but one thing he very clearly sees when his blindness is being seen. He or she might be blind, but one thing very clearly he does see. Who's able to see my blindness? Who is able to stare without fear into my inner dark void? And that stare he can never forgive. Never. That's how we operate. What you call as human life is nothing but an extended period devoted to defense of darkness. That's our primary occupation in this stretch called as life. If you look honestly at what the common man does his, her entire life, nothing but guard the borders. Patrol the limits. Light should not be allowed to infiltrate. The fellow might be a duffer at everything. IQ of 2.5. can't do a thing straight. But the more stupid one is, the more deft one is at protecting the stupidity. Otherwise, please tell me, how would he have managed to remain so stupid? Remaining stupid requires an extraordinary level of cunningness and determination. We laugh at him as Junulal. But be cautious. He is very, very dangerous. He is you and me. Watch out against the thing in the mirror. Are you getting it? Another lovely irony, a romantic irony. You know why Nuñez falls in love with Medina? Because of all the people in the valley, she had eyes that looked like opening. The others are described as having disfigured kind of empty sockets because it had become genetic, over 15 generations. The masses here, the muscles and everything, they had shriveled. But Medina looked like still having the possibility of sight. And that's what attracted Núñez to her. He said, this one. And by the way, by the standards of the valley, she was not considered beautiful. They thought of her as rather ugly. Why? Because she had not really eyes, proto-eyes. Stuff that could probably develop into eyes. Right? Some kind of blueprint of eyes had still remained in this person. And that's what brought Núñez to her. So the attempt was to awaken the light in her. And the end was, she's saying, not only would light not be awakened in me, I will ensure that your lights are extinguished. So be very cautious when you say, these days I have been mingling with a lot of people to bring them to the Gita. It's month end, ensure your own enrollment first. You never know what the Medinas of the world can do. You go to them to bring them to the Gita, and instead, I can be with you provided you give up this silly thing called the session and whatever nonsense. That's a brutal commentary on the terrible nature of our relationships. If two people meet, A and B, irrespective of their genders, A and B, they're A and B, right? And I'm denoting this vertical difference as the difference in the level of their honesty, their truth, their love for the truth. There is usually only one place where they meet. Tell me the place? This place. If this and this meet, it would be rare that they meet anywhere except this place. This one will have to climb down. That's the nature of relationship. Though this one, like Núñez, would, with a lot of confidence and certainty, approach this one thinking planning and smiling that he won't happen. And then the storyteller says, what does Núñez do? Run. R.U.N. Run. और पीछे मुड़ के मत देखना. And run without any assurance, without any certainty. The story does not have a definitely happy ending. We are not assured that Núñez survived or that Núñez went back and made a group or gang or army of people with eyesight and returned to capture the valley. That would have been pretty easy, no? The story does not say that. The story simply says Núñez left those people to themselves. He did not even plan to return to capture even just Medina. No, he says, you stay here. Because not only are there alternate worlds, your world is just 0.00001% of all the worlds possible. So if I talk of alternate worlds, even that is like giving too much weightage and space and respect to this infinitesimally small valley of yours. You are nothing, you are nobody. You are a few hundred or a few thousand people. I'll leave you behind. There is this vast planet available, I'll go anywhere. When you miss a session, is it because somebody handcuffed you or blindfolded you? Does that happen? Sir, I couldn't watch the session because, I am still dependent on my parents or my spouse for money. And the moment you appear on the screen, they blindfold me. Does it go this way? Does it go this way? So how are you made to drop the session? You are made to drop it inwardly. Not through the society, but through the self. You drop it apparently on your own accord. Don't you? I chose to miss the session. Sir, this I that chose to miss the session is every bit as artificial as the shoe being made in a social factory. But the output of a factory you would readily accept as artificial, won't you? What we don't see is that the self is also the output of a factory operated by society and using time and conditions as raw material. It is important to not to listen to the society. It is much more important to not to listen to the self. And that is the unique contribution of Vedanta to the world. The self is false. So please don't listen to yourself, please. H.G. Wells is poking fun at popular idioms in the country of the blind. The one-eyed man is king, right? and it turns out otherwise. Similarly, we have a lot of popular sayings, folk wisdom. Listen to your soul, listen to your conscience. Retreat and listen to yourself. Do what you want to do. Huh? Personal time, personal decision, inner voice, inner space. Please be very cautious of all these. Nuñez managed to run away. Not all would be equally lucky. Núñez probably managed to lay down his life. He probably died. Most of us won't have that luck. We won't even die. We will live. It takes a special kind of luck to die in the pursuit of liberation. And luck by definition is indefinite. You do not know whether you would have it. So don't ride on luck. Don't get into unforgiving situations. One of the ways we honor this self is by keeping its promises. Have you seen that? When you say, when I have made a promise, I'll keep it. But who made the promise? Who made the promise? This deluded self, right? Your job is neither to keep promises nor to break them. Your job is to stay clear. Your job is to be free. Do you get this? The medieval ages are gone. Nobody would trap you like a beast. And pack you and dispatch you to the Americas. And nobody would whip you into forced labor. That's not the way of the day. That's not how it happens today. Long live science, because neuroscience would become neuromarketing. That's the way of bondage today. And you will say, I purchased it on my own. It was my decision to push the button on my screen and say, I want it, deliver it tomorrow. That's how bondage operates today. No, this is not even the India of the 60s or 70s. This place here, Bangalore, is one of the richest in the country, probably the richest, with a young population, a young workforce. And the women here won't be married off like their grandmothers probably had been. Nobody would catch you and say, here, we have decided. This is the man you have to go to. And you have been married and follow him. And you are being kicked out of the house. and now you do as he orders. That's not going to happen anymore. That's not the way of current bondage. The way of current bondage is, I have finally realized I love him. Somebody actually started celebrating. Think of the scenes from the movies, 40s, 50s, 60s. Seen Achhoot Kanya? Anybody? Seen Aag? Not the recent one, Raj Kapoor. Remember that one? छोड़ बाबुल का घर तो है पी के नगर आज जाना पड़ा. The song stirs, but when you look at the whole social condition displayed there, that's not going to happen today. The existentialists have won. They said free choice is important. And so today you do have free choice, right? They have succeeded. But I would repeat, they brought you to the edge of the cliff and you pitched your tent there. They said you can no more be forced to stay within the household. You can no more be forced to drop a career. You can no more be forced to walk behind a man. You can no more be forced to have kids. And that was lovely of them to do that. But now you don't have anybody outside of you forcing you. The inner hormones are sufficient, are they not? And the ads and the algorithms. The algorithm never is picturized as a master cracking a whip. Or is it? Is it? But that's the way it operates. In its effect, if not in its appearance. Should we bother for the appearance or the effect? The effect is the same. In fact, the effect of the algorithm is much more vicious and debilitating than that of the slave driver. The slave driver was a human being. He could get tired and he could make mistakes. And sometimes he could get sentimental and a little lenient towards the slaves. But the algorithm would never be fatigued, and the algorithm would never deviate from the code. The algorithm is a far more vicious slave driver. On one hand, we need to celebrate what the existentialists gave us. On the other hand, we must also be cautious of the line that stopped them. Because the modern world operates outside that line. And that, in some sense, makes the historical models of oppression quite irrelevant today. That irrelevance is a danger. Because if we have been cautioned against what historically oppressed us, and we have fought that, then that might also mean that we do not know what oppresses us today. Today, the problem is freedom itself. If slavery enfeebled you yesterday, have you noticed how freedom suffocates you today? I'm choosing the word with a moment's pause. Freedom suffocates. How does it suffocate? You have to choose something. And if you don't choose something, you're a loser. You have been overwhelmed with choice. And the chooser has been overwhelmed with authority. Authority that the chooser really does not deserve. You have unlimited authority today, no? Because you are the chooser. Since you can choose not to buy from that shop, so he will say, sir, ma'am, sir. How many of us deserve to be called sirs and ma'ams? Really? But that sirship and ma'amship comes purely due to misplaced authority. The fellow, and also please see, the fellow knows that calling you sir or ma'am would fatten and dilute the chooser even more. Moment you are addressed as ma'am, the choice can change. No? Freedom suffocates, authority suffocates. It's a strange thing. Not so long back, it was lack of freedom that suffocated us. And they were singing, they were singing, some of the popular songs in the campus, in the fests. They were all about freedom. Have you noticed that? I'm talking of my time, the 90s. Because the songs were being carried forward from the 70s and 80s. Those songs were all of freedom. And they would contain words like the sky and fly and this and that. And Freddie Mercury saying, no. Yeah, I want to break free. And no, there's another one where he says, I'm moving at the speed of light. They call me Mr. Fahrenheit. Don't stop me now. Because the context was of perpetual stoppages. Man was being stopped by this authority, that authority. Then there were food shortages. That's a blockage. No, there was the church imposing its authority. That's a blockage. So everybody was stopping you. I don't have enough clothes, and that stops me. I don't have enough freedom. That stops me. I don't have voting rights. That stops me. I can't get a driving license. That stops me. So the songs would say, don't stop me now. Today we need to be stopped. We have shown that external freedom without inner liberation is much more dangerous than anything we have had in history. External slavery harmed the individual and the society and the members of one particular species. But external freedom, while being inwardly in bondage, has destroyed the entire planet. So which one is more dangerous? This pseudo-freedom. This pseudo-freedom that the so-called free ones don't deserve at all. And they would tell you, upon the slightest suggestion, not even control, you advise, you suggest, and they would say, this suffocates me. Yes, you are experiencing suffocation, but that is coming not from bondage, but from misplaced freedom. Freedom is suffocating you. If I do not know who I am, if I do not know which way to go, and 40 lanes open up in front of me, would I not be suffocated? I would be suffocated with excess choice. Suppose you are breathing through an oxygen mask, breathing, and you are given excessive oxygen, what would happen to you? You would die. Your lungs would burst. That's what is happening to mankind today. You have so much that you are dying of shortage. Look at the irony. The man got asphyxiated of excess oxygen. Why did he die? He died of too much oxygen. What you call as pressure, that too simply means an abundance, right? In this, if there are n molecules of oxygen, right, you have a pressure corresponding to n. In this, I have 20 n molecules of oxygen. The pressure would rise 20 times. So even this pressure thing that would finally burst the lungs apart is nothing but an abundance. Abundance given to someone who never deserved it. Abundance given to someone who was not educated in dealing with abundance. Freedom is for the free. But today we take freedom as the birthright of this organism called the human being. No, freedom does not come to you by birth. Freedom belongs only to those who love freedom, who sacrifice for freedom, who sacrifice the self for freedom. Otherwise, the human being is just like any other beast. How does he deserve more freedom? How can he say, I'm special and I'll have freedom as my birthright? No. Freedom is for the free. Be inwardly free and enjoy unlimited external freedom. Think of a domesticated Núñez. He's still living there. How has he become? How does he look? What does he do? He has produced 4 blind kids now. And he has grown so fat that now he can't run away even if he wants to. One of the reasons Nuñez could run away was he had not spent too much time in the valley. What do you think? Those who will really run and jog and climb and exercise? Is it possible? No, they don't. What happens to Núñez when he becomes one of them? he grows fat and complacent and weak and ages very quickly. And because the relationship with Medina and her father and the 4 kids lengthens over time, he starts feeling as if love is deepening, whereas it is nothing but a longer association in time, which can result in attachment, but not love. The other's presence becomes a comfortable habit, which is not love at all. That's what happens when you listen to the self. Please understand, there is a difference between feeling and emotion. This is the last thing I have to say on the story today. After that, we'll interact. More spontaneously. Feeling is biological. Emotion is always ego-mediated. Always. A feeling has no story. An emotion always has a story. A feeling would typically not last long. It will have a tidal form. A trough and a crest. Like a headache. A headache is a feeling, is it not? You feel the headache. But it doesn't stay for years. Therefore, don't turn your emotions into something sacred. Your emotions are nothing but an expression of the ego. Feeling is all right. Emotion is not. Emotion, especially in the Indian context, is ego sanctified. But when it comes to defending the self, the emotion is the most potent armor. Why are you hurting my emotions? Why are you doing this? Even thoughts are not all that thick. They can be penetrated. But emotions are a wall that is not only impregnable, but a wall that actually demands worship. The sacred wall that you must bow down to. You're arguing with someone, and that someone suddenly breaks down, and you find yourself shivering. And you're about to slap that person, at least rhetorically, because the fellow was making an absolutely stupid argument. So many verbal slaps were on their way. But now the person is shedding tears. And what do? Oh, no, come. See how the self has won. Are you getting this? The self was being commanded by external masters. Those external masters have remained, but no more external. Those external masters have disappeared from the outside and are now safely sitting inside. They have infiltrated. If Núñez actually decides to give up his eyes for the sake of his girl, his love, what would be the typical liberal response to it? Not liberal, libertarian response to it? His life, his choice. I mean, we must respect whatever he has decided. That's the problem with the modern world. Stupidity has taken the cover of choice. Have you seen such things happening in your workplace, in your youthful societies? In your woke environments? Have you seen such things happening? Somebody doing something utterly stupid, and that is being not just defended, but actually respected in the name of free choice. Have you seen such things happening? Continue seeing. Not just there, but also here. Incomplete freedom can sometimes be worse than a total lack of freedom. Yes, freedom is precious. Vedanta takes liberation as the highest. Freedom is indeed precious, but freedom must be complete. You must have freedom from others. You must also have freedom from the self.
Namaste Acharya Ji. I am Rupesh. After attending your sessions in Mumbai, Pune, now I am here. My question is, contrary to today's story in the Mahabharata, Gandhari voluntarily chose to blindfold herself because Dhritarashtra was blind by birth. Traditionally, this act is celebrated as marital devotion, satitva. But I see it as an act of arising from a misplaced center, mistaking blindness for virtue, renunciation without wisdom. The act brought darkness instead of clarity. Her choice also meant turning a blind eye to Duryodhan's unchecked rise as blind love. It's like parenting gone wrong. If she had not chosen to act blind, maybe there wouldn't have been a war.
This is pretty much an observation one cannot argue with. There is hardly a question in this. This is more of a befitting conclusion. Yes, you are right, obviously. Obviously. Just that Gandhari's blindfold is physical, so you can see that.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And the whole thing looks very dramatic. a blind father and a blindfolded mother, and 100 kids. And they are all itching for a war. Right? That's the situation. Krishna goes to them, don't fight, keep most of it, give something to us. Let's have a settlement. They say, no, 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 we want to fight. The whole thing is quite dramatic. Real life is less obviously dramatic. The parents can still be blind, but the blindness might not show up at the optician's place. The vision might still be 6 by 6, and yet they are totally inwardly blind. It's possible.
Yes.
See, who is a parent? In symbolic terms, anybody who gives rise to anything is the parent, right? So ego is the parent because karta gives rise to karma. And anything that happens, any deed must come from the doer. So the doer, the ego, is the parent. The doer is the parent because the doer gives birth to the deed. And the deed is all that there is because there is constant movement, which means deeds. So the blindness of these two actually refers to the blindness of the ego. If the ego is blind, the Mahabharata is what you get. And the blind ego tries to not just resist, but actually arrest Krishna when he comes. What does Krishna represent? Light. Light. He represents light. How can blindness arrest light? First thing. Secondly, why must blindness try to arrest light? An important psychological question. Sir, because the blindness is false. It is a cultivated blindness. It is a manufactured blindness. It is blindness of this kind. Because seeing is swabhav. You understand swabhav? That which you are helpless against. That which you are choiceless against. That which has no opposite, no alternative. As long as you are alive, you cannot escape seeing. And the existentialists, man is condemned to be free. Yes, similarly, man is condemned to see. Man is condemned to see. Seeing is your fundamental inner nature. So all blindness, therefore, is just a conspiracy. It is not a situation. Blindness is never a situation. It is always a choice. Do you see this? The ego decides to act blind. It is not blind. Therefore, when light comes, the ego does see light.
Yes.
But the light is life-threatening. The light simply means death of darkness. So darkness does realize light. It does detect light. And the detection tells of the danger. Therefore, darkness attempts something as stupid as arresting light. There is nobody. Often you say, sir, we didn't get what you spoke of today. And I always say, It is not possible that you do not understand. What is happening is, if you would honestly see and admit, is that you refuse to acknowledge. Yes, there is a gap, but the gap is not in understanding. The gap is in acknowledgement. Because the whole thing is just so straightforward, there is no way you cannot see. There are no complications here. What is it you cannot see? If there is a structure, the structure can be complicated. Truth is about demolishing the structure. Now the structure is gone, there is an open space. What do you not understand? If there stands a structure in space, you can say, oh, I don't understand the structure. And we'll admit that, fine. But if the structure has been flattened, and all that you have is open space, and you still say, but I don't understand. The question will be what? What remains to understand? There is nothing to understand, so how can you not understand? So when you say, no, I don't understand, you're lying. You're lying. You're just refusing to acknowledge that you do understand. And why refusing to acknowledge? Because there is a miscalculation within. The ego is calculating that if it acknowledges, it stands to lose. What it does not see is that it needs to lose. Yes, it does stand to lose, but it also needs to lose. So everything is all right. The ego gets absolutely clearly what is being said. What the ego is not clear on is its own situation. The ego will see that something is being said. Yes, what is being said is absolutely clear. The ego does see the effect that this thing will have on the inside. But now comes the problem. The ego does not look at itself. So when it finds this thing as dissolving itself, it takes that as a problem. That is not a problem. That is the solution. Therefore, self-knowledge is necessary. I have a tumor here, right? Forearm, big tumor. And the whole thing keeps spinning. I do not really know where the pain comes from because I don't know myself. I'm that stupid. I do not know myself. I cannot tell a tumor apart from the arm. I'm that stupid. So I go to the doctor, and that's fine. The doctor is good. I see the doctor is good. The doctor gives me medicine. I see the medicine is also good. I'm actually quite good at seeing things outside of me. The doctor is good and I see that. And I admit, yeah, the doctor is good. I'm also good, at reading the contents of all kinds of medicines and their reviews, and the medicine is also good. And the medicine starts having effect. The tumor starts dissolving. And again, I'm not mistaken. I do see the tumor as disappearing. Again, everything is fine. Now starts the problem. Because I do not know myself, it is not that I do not know the teaching. It is not that I do not know the medicine. It is not that I do not know the effect the medicine is having on me. But I do not know myself. So when the medicine actually starts dissolving the tumor, I take that as a threat because I think of the tumor as myself. I say this medicine is attacking me. The medicine is not attacking you. The medicine is attacking the tumor. But you do not know where you start and where the tumor starts. You do not know where you end and the disease starts. So you take the disease as yourself. And when the medicine attacks the disease, you feel attacked. And then you say, this doctor is an enemy. I'll drag him to the court. Do you understand this? Nobody can not understand. Nobody can not understand. Everybody understands. Concepts you can fail in understanding, but there is no concept here. What you have here is direct life, open seeing. It's like looking at the sky and saying, I don't understand. The response would be, what? But there is, or a blank sheet of paper like this. Somebody, please. I don't. You come like this, right? The job of the session is to apply the eraser. Right? This is the way you come. Totally colored and scripted. And then this is the result. And then you say, I don't understand. What? There is nothing here to understand. Do you get this? Blindness is a choice arising out of self-ignorance. When you do not know who you are, then you resist light because you are in dark about yourself. When you are in dark about yourself, obviously you will resist light. And when you are in dark about yourself, the self too appears as something dark. And then light is a threat. That's why no amount of knowledge can substitute for self-observation. The end is self-realization and the means is self-observation. There is nothing more to it. Full stop. Self-realization is the goal. Self-observation is the method. Full stop.
Thank you so much, sir.
Welcome. My skill lies in, first of all, admitting that there is nothing to be said, and then speaking for half an hour. Just download the Acharya Prashant app, and there you go to the community section, and you have live testimonials streaming in at the rate of 1 every 5 minutes. I'm seeing lives change in thousands, if not millions, every day in front of my own eyes. We are doing it. Right. We have actually done it.
Join the community of more than 2 lakh participants on the Acharya Prashant app. Your first month is completely free. You'll get full access to Gita Mission. On the app, you will get regular live sessions, daily exclusive conversations with Acharya Prashant, access to the vibrant Gita community, wisdom exams, curated news, audiobooks, quotes, and much more. Search Acharya Prashant on Google Play Store or Apple App Store and download now.